Do me for hold this L.
Hold this L.
Hold this L.
All right, welcome to Hold This L with your hosts, Lonnie and Cappel. I messed that up. I'm not going to start over because, we all family now listening, but I'm going to say it again. Welcome to Hold This L with your host, Lonnie and Cappel. What's going on, bro?
What up? What up, bro? Man, I didn't even realize you messed up.
Maybe it's one of those things. It's one of those things. Maybe it was like more internal. Like I know I was like a little off of my wording, but I wanted to. I don't know because you don't always know how it's gonna sound when you recording because you're gonna listen back. You be like, man, I knew I messed up. I should have redid that, or I should have just like acknowledged it. I'm not gonna start recording over, but because it's all good. The people out there they know that we they know we good. They know we good. We don't need to start over.
Right, right.
We family. Anyways, so we got some good action for y'all today. It's NFL Sunday. I know we drop on Monday, but it's NFL Sunday, and we've been watching football, watching some good games. We're gonna go through these games, but before we go, what's going on, cuz? How's life?
Chilling, man. They been kind of laid back, just chilling, not doing much. Slept a whole bunch today.
Yeah.
Other than that, nothing. Watched football and slept. That was basically what I did. How about you?
Man, same here. You know what I'm saying? I've been on that supernatural thanks to you. So to give a little background, Lonnie, he put me on the supernatural. He didn't really put me on purpose. Like he was watching it and he told me about it. This was like some months ago. This was a while
Yeah.
ago. And I watch a lot of shows, but I like that fantasy, supernatural stuff. I like that kind of stuff. I the comic book stuff, superheroes, all that. And so I'm looking for something to watch on TV. And the only reason why I ain't never started Supernatural because I'm like, man, 15 seasons, that's a lot. I got a lot of catching up to do. So I was like, you know what? I might as well start. And, I got to start somewhere. So I started watching it. I've been on it. I'm just on season 2 right now. But yeah, that's what's been taking up my time. I was in the grocery store, walking around with my phone, watching Supernatural.
Bro, I
You know
ain't,
what
I
I'm
didn't
saying?
even realize you was on it. I didn't realize
Man,
you
I
was on
told
it at
you this
all.
yesterday. I
Bro,
told you this yesterday.
I don't even remember, bro. I don't even remember. Dang.
Yeah.
I told you it was good though.
Yeah, it is good. It is good. Yeah, but I know you can't talk. We can't really talk about it because I got 14
Yeah, you gotta
point
you yeah.
14.15 episodes to go. I'm like on episode 4. It's like 20 episodes per season. I think I started looking at the seasons to see if all the seasons was like 20, and some of them not. I know like the last season was like 13. You
Right,
know, I don't
right.
know if it's because of COVID or what, but yeah, man. So that's what's been going on with me. I've been watching some Supernatural. My wife, she saw the first episode, the first and second, and she came in while I was already going on. And I think it was the first episode where the lady was on the ceiling with the fire, like, and yeah, and their mama was on the ceiling, and she was like, "No, I ain't gonna be able to watch this. This scary." It's not really that scary though, but I mean, hey, it is what it
No,
is.
it's not. It's not. It's actually it's a hell of a show. Hell of a show. Shout out to Sam and Dean.
Yeah, yeah, it's a good show. But outside of that, man, I've been following football, following my fantasy team. Not doing too well, man. Not doing too well. We could talk about that on next show because then it'll be official if I lose or not. I don't want
Right.
to speak too soon, but man, let's get into this football. So first up, Giants Bears. Bears won 17-13. Not much to really talk about except for Saquon Barkley. We're gonna talk about him a little bit later as far as his injury, but yeah, he got injured and it looks to be serious. Um, Falcons Cowboys. Man, that was a heck of a game. It was a heck of a game. Did you get a chance to see that?
Yes. Watched every bit of it.
I don't like the Cowboys and I don't like the Falcons. So whoever would have lost would have been fine for me. I guess in the grand scheme of things, I'm glad it was the Falcons because I'm a Saints fan and that just helps our division. But the Falcons, they they have some kind of curse or some kind of something like who else has these big leads and loses these big leads like this? Like, has this ever been something that's happened in history where one team is becoming known for blowing big leads, not playing well and then losing the game at the end, but it's close. Like literally beating the dog crap out of a team, and then the team coming back. Man,
Bro, it's coaching. It's
I
coaching.
mean, you're right. It is coaching because when you do an onside kick, for anybody that didn't see the game, okay, so the Falcons were up by at least what 17 points or something. I mean, I can't remember the
Mhm.
exact number of points. They was up 3 scores in the fourth quarter with probably about 5 minutes to go or so. I
Yeah.
mean, I can't remember the exact script as far as the time goes, but they was up most of the game, beating the brakes off the Cowboys. And the fact that they let the Cowboys come within 2 points was terrible. So I'm just gonna skip to that part. Score is 37-39. It's like a minute, maybe 20 seconds on the clock. Cowboys had just kicked the field. No, they had just scored. They do an onside kick. Everybody knows it's coming. This was the laziest, flimsiest looking onside kick I ever seen. They kicked it. They did the onside kick with no tee. They just put the ball sideways on the ground and kicked it, and it spinned to 10 yards so slow.
It
But
looked like
you're
a putt.
trained, exactly, but you're trained as the opposing team is to jump on the ball, especially at a point where the team can't touch it because it's not 10 yards. The Atlanta Falcons let the ball go 10 yards. When I tell you it was moving slow, it was like slow motion. They're sitting there watching the ball. They I don't understand this. You're a professional football team. Are you practicing special teams? You're supposed to jump on the ball. Especially, it's easy to do that when the other team can't touch it, because if they try to jump it before you, then that's automatic penalty. And the ball was moving so slow, it would have been so easy to jump on it. Like
It,
this, you know what? We gonna
bro.
wait till Wednesday. But as we was talking earlier about what we gonna give out, was we gonna give it out twice or just once? Clearly, we know who to give it to.
Yeah, 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 yeah. I mean, it literally hit me as you were talking. I was literally just thinking that, like, well, I know who mine gonna be. But, bro, the crazy thing about all this is, first of all, I blame that on coaching because you got to be aware. You got to be aware of the situation and what's going on. Second of all, from somebody who played football, I played high school football. Not professionally or nothing, but I played high school football. The one thing first of all, you got your hands team out there.
hmm
He putted the ball. He literally putted it.
Put it,
If,
yes.
if, if, if you ever watch golf and you saw putt, that's what he did with that football, just with his foot. And they let it roll. It looked like a putt. And you would be
hmm
watching it, and they watched it roll and curve. It had to curve, actually
hmm
curve to go. If it keeps on the straight, bro, there was like four dudes around it, and you literally let it curve to where there were like four cowboys.
It
It's
almost
like,
looked as if it was moving so slow it barely got 10 yards. Like that's how slow it was moving. I
bro,
wouldn't when I first saw it, I didn't think it was gonna make it 10 yards. I thought it was gonna either go out of bounds or it was gonna stop short, and then that would have been a wrap.
one of the dumbest plays I ever saw, bro. As I'm
Yeah.
watching it unfold, first of all, I'm like, who who does an onside kick? So when he kicks it, I'm like, okay, game over. That had to be the dumbest. And as I'm thinking that, the Cowboys get the recovery. I'm
Exactly.
like, are you sick? Really, really, like, really, bro? It was
I,
no words for what I saw.
I still think that's a dumb way to kick the ball on sides. I don't think the way that he did that was like smart. It just was the Falcons was stupid. So you had a stupid way to kick the ball and a dumber team made put it like this. There was a dumb decision, but it was negated by an even dumber decision.
Mhm.
But anyways, Cowboys win 40-39. Lions Packers. Rogers looks like he is back. Devontae Adams didn't have a great game, but the
Yeah, he
Packers
ended up
did play
getting hurt.
well. Yes, he did. Packers did play well. Titans Jaguars 33-30. That was a good game. You got any comments on that one?
Not really. Gardner Minshew. I mean, he the real deal, man. I mean, people can say what
Yes.
they want about him. You look at it. Look, that Titans defense is stout, and he hung 30 on them and took them to the
Yeah.
to the brink. Um, So, I mean, I don't even know. It's not a whole lot to say about him. Like I say, I mean, when I look at that game in general, it didn't go nowhere. It didn't go nearly how I thought it was going to go.
Mm-mm.
First of all, Derrick Henry didn't have a great game, and Gardner
Mm-mm.
Minshew lit it up. Two things that I definitely wouldn't have imagined happening. But I mean, that's pretty much all I got to say on it.
Yeah. Tannehill also had a good game. I think he threw for 4 touchdowns. Um, Derrick Henry got to get it going. I'm disappointed so far. From a fantasy perspective, I'm disappointed. But anyways, outside of that, Colts Vikings. Vikings are 0-2. They were looked at to be one of the top teams in the NFC, and they're starting off pretty slow. But Philip Rivers got his first W with his new team, 28-11. Jonathan Taylor looked good. What's your thoughts
Mm.
on him?
Thought he looked real good. Happy to have him in a couple of fantasy lineups. So I'm definitely rooting for him. I had him. I was high on him today. So had him in a couple of my DFS lineups. Also, actually paid off for me. In one of
Yeah,
them.
yeah. I just wish Philip Rivers throw the ball to T.Y. Hilton a little more. That's a personal thing for me because I got him in fantasy. But outside of that, Coach Tate played well. Bills Dolphins. Now this is not a premier game, but I do want to sit here and talk for this one for just a second. Josh Allen looked great. Fitzpatrick, he played great. He always seems to play great against the Bills. I guess that's that motivation, he used to play for the Bills or whatever.
Right.
But so what I want to say about this game is, Bills were supposed to win, but they won 31-28. This is the reason why people feel like the Patriots are still going to win the AFC East because the Bills beat the Dolphins 31-28. Like nobody is confident in the Bills to the point to where they feel like it's just they're clear cut front winners, even with the Jets being terrible and the Dolphins being terrible. I still feel like the Patriots are going to be the team to beat. I feel like they're probably gonna have at least a 10 win season, and I think they're gonna probably, for the most part, maybe one loss in the AFC East, and that one loss is probably gonna be to the Bills. I just don't feel confident in this conference, and I don't feel confident in the Bills, especially when they playing and they lose 3 points to the Dolphins. They let them put up 28 points,
Right.
and that's supposed to be one of the top defenses in the league. But anyways, 49ers Jets, we knew what it was going to be like. 49ers 31. I like Jordan Reed today. I played him in a lot of fantasy, and he was low on like I thought, and he did very well. Any thoughts on that? I know that's your team.
Yes, I got to chime in on this game just for a quick second. First of all, good call with Jordan Reed. I played him in a lot of fantasy too. I had a feeling about him. It paid off for me. That's your boy. I wanted to give him a shout out, definitely, because you kind of mentioned him in the fantasy show last week, actually.
Yeah.
Um, so big kudos to you on that. But I want to acknowledge just Nick Bosa, torn ACL, man. That hurt. That hurt my heart, man. We lost Raheem Mostert today. Hopefully not too serious. We lost Jimmy Garoppolo today. Hopefully not too serious. We lost Bosa today. Serious. Um, and I can't even think of our defensive tackle that got hurt too. But yeah, bruh, against the Jets, it's just very disappointing. Of course, we dominated in 31-13, which everybody expected, but the injuries didn't like the way we came out at the end of it.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely. Um, Rams Eagles. Eagles, man, I feel like people are gonna have to start giving Max Kellerman his just due when it comes to Carson Wentz. So I don't know if you really follow First Take that as much, but Max Kellerman started off loving Carson Wentz, and he still thinks he's got a great potential, but he gets on Carson Wentz, and Stephen A. and Dan Orlovsky, they give him the business because they feel like Carson Wentz is that dude, and Max Kellerman is saying, hey, he can be that dude, but he hasn't been the last few years. And he points out several things that I agree with Carson Wentz. One of them being he only wins against these teams that are like that he's supposed to win against, like the Washington Redskins and even beating the Cowboys. But he points out that the other quarterbacks, when they play those like other teams that's supposed to be not as good as him, have better stats. They play better. He talks about his decision making, how he's making these bad decisions, how he's impulsive. I'm not gonna go into everything that he says, but I really feel like people are going to start to say that about Carson Wentz this year if he doesn't pick it up. This is an example. Playing against the Eagles, playing against the Eagles playing against the Rams. The Rams had their way with the Eagles from the very start of this game. It wasn't even close. And we could talk about the injuries because the Eagles are decimated. But the one thing that he has right now that he cannot say he didn't have last year is his offensive weapons for the most part. He has offensive weapons. He has both his tight ends, which are pretty good. Dallas Goedert will be starting on another team right now if he wasn't with the Eagles. Still has Zach Ertz. Deshaun Jackson is back. You got your first round pick, Jalen Reagor. You still got Greg Ward, who showed that he could be viable when he was the number one receiver. And you got Miles Sanders, who everybody feels is an upcoming running back star. So for him, what's the problem? Carson Wentz? I don't get it. I feel like people are going to start really throwing his name out there. You're going to start hearing Jalen Hurts. Because you already know people were talking about why did they draft him so soon and why did they draft him so early. And they have a franchise quarterback, and Jalen Hurts could be looked at as a quarterback that a team may want to be a franchise quarterback because of what he did in college. So
Right.
just wanted to point that out there. Carson Wentz got to get his game together because right now he is not doing it. Broncos and Steelers, that was a close one. Even with Drew Lock getting hurt, that was another injury. Steelers wins 26-21. Bucks and Panthers. Tampa Bay with their first win, and Tom Brady with his first win. You already know what people are gonna say. What do you think people are gonna say now that Tom Brady got his first win and they beat the Panthers 31-17?
Hopefully nothing.
The Tampa Bay lovers. Tom Brady lovers. They're gonna talk about. See, we told you. Look at that. Tom terrific. Tom is back. We told y'all. He just needed to get his feet under him.
It's the
Who did he play?
Panthers.
Exactly. And if you didn't watch the game, what you probably don't know is that score was 17-24 with 2, maybe 3 minutes left, and the Panthers allowed Leonard Fournette to run like a 40, 50-yard touchdown, which basically sealed the deal. So if you're going to shout out Tom Brady for this win, please don't. You're embarrassing yourself. He played well. But he didn't play incredible. He played average. And the team played the Panthers, the
He
youngest defense in the National Football League.
played
Panthers are no
okay. He
longer.
didn't play very well. Played all
I
right.
mean, he didn't. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. He did. What was his stat line? Because I don't want to say he didn't play well at all. Oh, I'm not gonna say he didn't play well. He had a. When you look at his QBR 53, not great. Rating quarterback rating 80.3. So like I said, he played decent. I said he played good. You're right. You're more right, Lonnie. He played all right. Exactly. So anyways, um I just don't want to hear people screaming out Tom Brady, see what he did. He didn't do nothing. They just won the game. Cardinals and that Washington football team. Kyler Murray is the real deal.
Yes, he is.
Kyler Murray is the real deal. I look forward to more seeing him play more. Chargers Chiefs. That one just ended like maybe 15, 20 minutes ago. Chargers gave the Chiefs a real scare. Kansas City wins 23-20 though. Went into overtime. Tyrod Taylor. I know it felt good having a starting position for 1 week, but sometimes you get injured, and in those injuries, you lose your job. Today you lost your job
Yes.
to what's
Yes,
his
you
name,
did.
Justin Herbert or
Herbert.
Justin Herbert. Yeah, you lost your job.
Look, and I didn't think he was going to be very good, bro. But after watching him, I actually watching him today. He looked pretty good. He could throw the ball.
Yeah,
So,
yeah,
I was very impressed with the way he looked. I didn't expect that out of him at all. Not coming in, not against the Chiefs defense that's actually pretty good.
I know.
They're not the greatest defense, but they're not too bad either. And just being thrown
Yeah,
in the fire, not even you're not even expecting to start. You game plan this week, but you didn't take first team reps this week. Tyrod Taylor got hurt in pregame.
yep,
So it's not like he got hurt and you took first team reps. You got thrown in the fire. You had no idea you were going to step on that field today and to play the way he played. I was very impressed.
yes. If you own players like Austin Eckler, Joshua Kelly, Keenan Allen, Hunter
You're
Henry,
happy.
be happy. Be very happy. It was a clear difference in how that offense looks with him under center compared to Tyrod Taylor. Um, and Ravens and Texans. Nobody really thought the Texans was going to beat the Ravens, and it was very indicative in the score, 33-16. Um, Deshaun Watson. I mean, they just need a new coach. They need to go ahead and fire what's his name? He's the coach and the GM. I can't remember his name. They need to fire him.
Me
They
neither.
need to hire somebody else that knows what they're doing, or at the very least, fire him as the GM and let him just coach, and hire somebody else, that won't do something stupid like trade DeAndre Hopkins
No, he needs to
for.
be fired.
Yeah, I agree with you. I agree. Um, Two games coming up: Patriots Seahawks, which is about to start in the next 15 minutes as we are right now. So we'll talk about that when we come back for next week on Friday, and Saints Raiders tomorrow. Um, so as we were going through the scores, you mentioned several people getting injured. I mentioned a few, and that seems to be something that seems to be really big, especially going into today. So I want to talk about that. Uh, why do you think there are so many injuries happening right now? Because we have injuries all the time. You know that. It's injuries happen. But to have so many in one day, and some of them seem pretty serious. What's your thoughts on that?
Um, I thought about it, thought a lot about it. And we can blame it on spring training, we can blame it on OTAs, we can blame it on all that stuff. But to be honest with you, it's just football. Because even in spring training OTAs, I mean, you're not going full speed and hitting and stuff like you're doing right now. But the, these guys used to it. They used to it. Even coming in spring training, OTAs, preseason, and all that, they still hitting. They still doing stuff. You might not be playing as much as starters, but I won't blame that for torn ACLs and stuff like that. I limit that more to hamstring injuries.
Hmm.
Stuff like that is usually what happens when in those situations. You don't usually see the torn ACLs or Achilles or something like that just coming from not having a spring training. But I mean, it's cause for concern though. I mean, you got a lot of the big time players and big names is getting hurt early. I think Pouncey, the center for the
Marquise
Chargers.
Pouncey,
No, the
the
Mike,
brother,
Mike
Mike
Pouncey.
Pouncey. Okay.
He's out for the year. Um, with injuries. So I mean, it's a lot of guys that's suffering with injuries, but I don't think it's as much about that. Like for example, Philip Lindsay, turf toe.
Hmm.
It's turf toe. That don't have anything to do with the fact that you're not having a spring training. It's just dumb luck. You know, you look. I look at a lot of these guys' injuries. It's just the way you fall sometimes. Something. I think it has more to do with just dumb luck than it is with anything else. That's my opinion on it.
Yeah. So we see it a little different. Honestly, I think that it's more not getting the proper reps that you need for a full contact sport. Um, the condition is not as much of the issue, which it is a little bit of the issue in my opinion. But when you think about preseason, a lot of people say, well, they don't play the full game anyway. Well, that's the purpose of preseason, is to get used to it. I heard Keyshawn Johnson say that, when you're practicing and when you're in mini camps and all that, like the players don't hit you. They don't. They don't hit you. That's not what they do. You don't. The first time that you receive contact is in your first game, whether it's the preseason game or the real regular season game. So acclimating your body to that after being off for 7, 8 months, you don't get used to it until you're doing it consistently. Once you stop something, it's kind of like when you work out. You work out for years and then you stop for a while. You first go back in, your body don't just say, "Oh yeah, I'm used to this." It takes a while to. It takes about a good week, and then you're good. Now you adapt real quick. That muscle memory, it hits you because your body, like it remembers. Like that muscle memory is real, but not in one day. Not in So it takes a while to get used to that. So I think that preseason gives a quarterback the reps, gives a running back the reps, gives a wide receiver the reps. Like when you say they fall a certain way, I think that's the actual practice in the preseason game. You get less reps in preseason, so when you play the real game, now you're ready because the way you fall can impact how you get injured. But if you haven't failed like that in 7, 8 months, you know it takes a few times to do that to be like, hey, I haven't played football since I was in junior high. So I would probably I can't really compare that to an NFL player. I'm just saying, I was very athletic as far as baseball. So when, something like football, I would probably feel like I'm brand new out there playing again because I haven't got hit. But because I played baseball so much longer, you can put me out there, and after about a week or so, I'm good to go. You know, so you just need that time to your body needs that time to adjust to the way you move, the way you get hit. Like, and I think that some of these injuries, and we'll never know because you never can like tell, hey, what would have happened if we would have had a preseason? And we all know why we didn't have a preseason because of COVID and because of how the dynamic of things are. But I think now when I say all that, it is not to say that that's why the injuries are happening. I'm just saying I do think that the preseason games, that the time that it takes for them to get acclimated to the hits that they get, the running, the conditioning, I think it may have something to do with the injuries, and possibly it may be less injuries if they had that part of the game. But neither here nor there. Very significant injuries today. Saquon Barkley, you named 4 people from 49ers. Um, you named some defensive people. Well, not defensive, Pouncey's offense. Um, who else got hurt?
Christian
Tyrod
McCaffrey.
Taylor. Christian McCaffrey got hurt. Yeah. Just it's and these are big names. Like a lot of these names are big, Mostart. To go to Mostart though, before we even like go any further, I've been sleeping on him. I know you haven't because you're a fan of the team, but that dude pretty good. It seemed like he's. I don't. I'm curious that if we were to pull out the stats of the longest runs in the last 2 years, longest runs for touchdowns, I wonder where he would be on that list. Maybe right there with Derrick Henry because he
Hmm.
has a decent amount of long touchdowns. He breaks touchdowns. You know,
Bro, he got jets.
like
And when he get going, you're not catching him. Bro, if when he get in the open field, it's like a blur. Bro,
he
dude
had
is
two
fast,
today.
man.
One didn't count, but he had
I
two
know.
today. I was hoping the other one would have counted because I had him in like so many of my my daily fantasy leagues. But I was like, man, this dude, I've been sleeping on him for real. I got to give him
Yeah,
credit. I hope 49ers are basically saying he's the guy and not doing that super timeshare thing. Like McKinnon, I know he's back and he's healthy, and I think him as a receiver is great, but you got a real back. McKinnon ain't never been a real running back.
right.
He's been more like scat back type. He's able to like Reggie Bush, that kind. I'll say like a poor man's Reggie Bush because he really had that great year in Minnesota and then he was able to get paid in San Francisco. But Raheem Mostert is a real running back.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So anyway, shout out to him or whatever. But you got anything else for football? Anything before we move on to the playoffs?
No, let's get to this basketball, man. That's what I'm ready for.
Yeah, let's get to this basketball. Um, I didn't get nobody challenge me on what I said about the Lakers and the Nuggets. I mean, not the Lakers and Nuggets, but the Miami Heat and how they are a different team, than the Clippers. Although they are very similar with, having to bring chemistry to have chemistry or whatever. I do want to make a correction. When I was talking about the Heat, I said that the only 2 team members from last year that was part of the rotation was Olynyk and Bam Adebayo. I forgot Goran Dragic. So it's just
Mm.
one extra person. My bad. But what I said stands as far as the newness of the team and the chemistry that they built, and they're better coached. But outside of that, um, Celtics Heat 2-1. I'm hoping that the Celtics win the next one because I want a series. You know why I want a series out of this one? Because it ain't gonna be no series in the next one, and the other one. I
Right,
mean, it ain't gonna be like I feel like this is the last real series we gonna get this year.
right.
Because
Hmm.
the Nuggets and the Lakers not gonna be a series. I know some people holding on to it. A lot of people are like, they already came back 3-1. Do you people realize why that was historical? It's because it doesn't happen often. Doesn't happen often. And if you know basketball, you know the Lakers are a terrible matchup for a team like the Nuggets. Lonnie, I think you was right when you said it's going forward, but I'm still sticking to my 5. But this is the last real series you're gonna get. Enjoy close basketball, the Heat and the Celtics, because whoever wins, the Lakers go destroy them too.
Yep.
I mean, I don't know. What's your thoughts, man? Tell me what you're thinking. I just heard you say "yep," so I'm guessing you're thinking the same thing. But
Absolutely 100%. I told somebody today. May have been yesterday. The Lakers will go 8-0 in the next 8 games.
Yeah, and I said that was me. You may have told somebody else too, and I said I
No, it
think
was
they're gonna
you.
get. I think they get at least one.
Mm.
I feel like they're gonna lose at least one, maybe two, one in this one, and maybe one in the finals. But I wouldn't be surprised if they go 8-0 these next games. Well, it'd be 7-0 because the Lakers already manhandled the Nuggets, and I think Frank Vogel, he's making it. I hope he makes that change to start Dwight Howard because it's clear that Jokic has trouble with Dwight Howard. Doesn't mean that Jokic is not going to eventually have a good game, but he's going to have to play differently to have the games that he to have a good game against a defender like Dwight Howard in there. And even when Anthony Davis is on him, they're more athletic. They're just as big. They move faster than him, so he can't really beat him off the dribble. He can't manhandle him down low. His rebound totals are going down because he can't get rebounds the same way. You got somebody in Dwight Howard who's in there just to get rebounds and play defense.
Yeah.
So I mean, I don't really know what else to say
I mean, it's
besides
over with. I mean,
it is.
I mean, look, we can sit here and you can try to evaluate the series however you want. It's over. They don't match up well. They have no answer. If you watch that first game, LeBron had 15 and 12. AD had 37. And I know what people think I'm about to say, but what I'm about to say is they have no answer for LeBron, not AD. We knew that coming in. They can do nothing with LeBron. He's getting to the basket at will. He's getting to the basket whenever he wants. They literally their best defender for him is Jeremy Grant. That should tell you something. That's who they had guard him. So I mean, they just don't match up well, man. The matchup is just Gary Harris is a very good defender. He too little.
Yeah.
So I mean,
Nobody gonna be able to stop LeBron. Yeah.
yeah, they don't match up well against him.
Yeah. And people, I hate when people say, "Oh, LeBron not even the best one on his team. Look at the stats." Well, y'all shut the hell up with that. Like, please stop with that. All right. And all I'm gonna say is this: we saw what AD can do with his own team. If you take LeBron off the team, the Lakers not even as good as the Pelicans were. They're not. Like, look at the personnel that the Lakers have. AD not creating no shots. He's not making the team better by himself. AD is a beast because LeBron is the one that runs the show. So I'm assuming that when Lonnie says the person don't have no answer for is LeBron, is because if you take LeBron off, they do have an answer for AD. We've seen teams double him and get the ball out of his hands, and he still ends up having good games, but they don't play well enough to win. He is a top 5 talent. He's a top 5 player, but he's not that guy that's going to prepare your team to a championship without a star next to him. So LeBron is the guy on that team. LeBron is the best player on that team. Stop it with the stats. Stop going to Google and look up who got the best stats for the year and say this is the 10 person that carried the team. Just quit it with that. You don't know basketball. When you make that statement to me, I can't have a conversation with you.
I agree.
Plain and simple.
I agree 100%.
But anyways, moving on. So LeBron made some very interesting comments. He was asked how did he feel about or was he upset that he only received 16 first place votes for the MVP? Shout out to Giannis. Shout out to the Greek Freak for winning MVP. He won the second straight MVP. He also won Defensive Player of the Year. I think he's the second person to do it, only behind Michael Jordan. So shout out to him. I will be the first one to go on record and say that, not the first one because it's been said before, but I will say that I don't agree with it. I don't think he should have won MVP. Although I'm not mad at the decision because he deserved it. You know what I'm saying? He played well enough to win. I just think he should have been second in voting. But LeBron was asked, was he pissed off or was he upset because he only received 16 votes? And LeBron James said he was pissed off. Not that he didn't win MVP, that he only got 16 out of 100, 16 first place votes out of 101. And he also made some comments about the MVP itself and the awards in itself as far as the criteria, like what's the criteria? He said that sometimes he wonders if it's more about the narrative, more about the moment than actually people watching basketball. And I think he made a good point when he said he gave an example about 2012, 2013 when he could have won Defensive Player of the Year. He should have won Defensive Player of the Year and MVP in that year, but they gave it to Marc Gasol. They gave all Defensive Player to Marc Gasol. Marc Gasol was second team All NBA. How does that make sense? It doesn't.
Mhm.
You know what I'm saying? So, like, did you hear about that?
Oh, every bit of it. Every bit of it. I
Yeah.
mean, the thing was, I knew Giannis was gonna win just listening to
Yeah.
all the
Me
analysts and
too.
stuff
Me
like
too.
that
Yeah.
because he dude had crazy stats.
Yeah.
My problem is nobody is taking into account when you can everybody in the that knows basketball will tell you the East is weak after the top five. So to be the number one seed and only be 2 games, 3 games better than the Lakers who are in the West. How do you I just don't understand how you think he had a better season. I mean, we knew what the Bucks could do. They didn't do anything different from what they did last year. Clearly, that showed in the playoffs. I mean,
Yep.
we know Giannis can average 31 and 17, but nobody's guarding him in the regular season. He's playing in the East. They can't stop him. So, I mean, like I say, big kudos to Giannis. I completely understand. I just don't think you're taking in the whole totality of the fact that it's a whole lot easier to have the stats that you have as Giannis playing in the division that he plays in.
Yeah. I mean, all that's true. I think I really feel like there should be some kind of criteria to determine who's the MVP. It's left up to interpretation of what we think an MVP is, and that I think that interpretation probably changes from year to year with the people that's voting, because like when you think of all the MVPs, like they brought up when Steve Nash won the year that Kobe scored. I mean, averaged like 30 something points a game, and I forgot how many assists and rebounds, but
He got
he
robbed.
murdered it. And he got robbed. They gave it to Steve Nash, and they were saying, and the rationale was Steve Nash is the most valuable player. If you take him off that team, then that team is not, it's not the team that that people see. But then you give it to people who have the best stats. So it's like, you know, I don't know what the criteria is. Nobody knows what the criteria is, and I think that's part of the problem. Even if you use that argument with people will say with this MVP, oh, if you take Giannis off the Bucks, clearly they not a good a team. I mean, a good as good of a team as the Lakers. I don't know about that, because if you're going to if you're like you said, Lonnie, if people are not going to acknowledge the difference in competitiveness in the conferences, then what would really happen if you took Giannis off of the Bucks? They are still a playoff team. All right, the Washington Wizards almost made the playoffs. Orlando Magic made the playoffs. Brooklyn Nets made the playoffs. And we're not talking about the Brooklyn Nets with KD and Kyrie Irving. We're talking about the Brooklyn Nets without them. You know, those teams made the playoffs. I'm not convinced that Milwaukee would not be better than those teams without Giannis. But you know what I am convinced of? Take LeBron off the Lakers, and the Lakers are at best 8 seed. At best. At
Hmm.
best, they're 8 seed, even with AD on their team, because he's not that player. He's not that player that propels a team to win at a high clip. He's just a great talent. So even with with that logic, LeBron is the most valuable player to his team, but his stats are comparable to Giannis, even though they're not as great. When you add the assists and I mean it's like I can't compare. I can't talk down to Giannis stats. I don't even want to do that because his stats are impeccable. I'm not gonna take nothing away from him, but I think that at the very least, LeBron's right. I'd have been pissed too if I only got 16 votes.
Yeah. This is my
Crazy.
thing. Name me in the last 10 years a team that wasn't in the East that had a single player take their team to the finals. I've only seen it happen in the East. Giannis, LeBron. No, matter of fact, Giannis ain't took his team to the finals,
No,
but
he haven't.
LeBron, and I see it's happening with Jimmy Butler.
I mean, if you
Let me
also
let
think
me give
about
you an
this,
let me give you an example. Put the Miami Heat are nice, very good. Put them in the West. They're not in the West. They're not in the Western Conference Finals.
No, they're not.
That's my point. You put that Miami Heat team with Jimmy Butler being the guy. If he's not averaging 25, 30, which he don't have to do in the East, he can impact the game in so many other ways because of the matchups and stuff like that he has. You don't see single players dominate, and that's why when you go back to a saying like AD is not that guy. Nobody's that guy in the West by themselves. Mm-hmm. Nobody. I don't care who you name. Nobody's come out the West and dominated by themselves and led their team to a finals. It's just not going to happen. Even talking about LeBron last year before we got AD, we were still a 4 seed. Exactly. We weren't the top team in the West.
And that was by himself.
And that's what I'm saying. He was, nobody even expected him or gave him the expectation to be a 1 seed by himself in the West. Yeah. He was expected to be the 1 seed in the East. Even with Kyrie hurt, even with Kevin Love hurt, they lose a game or they in the second or third spot. Oh, the Cavaliers going to be able to make it to the finals, not being the number 1 seed. Did they need the home court advantage? Did they need this? How many times we heard that conversation? And every time LeBron ended up going to the finals.
Exactly.
He ended up going to the finals, so it didn't matter. In other words, I just don't feel like you should be get that much credit for leading your team like that in the East. Period. Yeah. That's the only reason the Bucks are as successful as they are is because of where they at.
Yeah. I mean, I also think that there should be some and I wonder if there will be some conversation around an actual criteria for MVP. There should be some conversation around the criteria for all those awards. Like LeBron made another good point. You talk about Brandon Ingram winning most improved player, and rightfully so. He deserved it. So it's not a matter of that he didn't deserve it, but it's also a matter of why is it not a close comparison between him and Devontae Graham when Devontae Graham stole a starting position? Like, people don't realize this, but Devontae Graham, he didn't start the first, maybe few weeks of the season. He came off the bench. And he came off the bench and wrecked. And then they were forced to start him. And he went from 4 points a game to averaging 17, 18 points a game. Why is he not being more considered? And that's the point. Is what's your criteria? Not saying that he should have won it, but why is he not more in the conversation? So what's your criteria for these awards? That is something the NBA needs to look at. What's the actual, what's a rubric? What are the things you got to have to be part of this conversation?
Well, this is the problem that I have with that. I don't think there is one. This is the thing.
Not.
Now, me and you are very, very big sports fans, but we always talk about, even talking to each other, we try to be realistic when we do our analysis, even when we just talking to each other off camera. But we all have bias. We all lean towards, as real as we try to be, we all have that bias to the player we like, the team we like. Well, guess who's doing the voting? Analysts, reporters, people who have bias, people who have their likes and dislikes to, I like Giannis. He's a good guy. He's the guy in the offseason that goes and works by himself. Don't team up. Don't join up. That is not the friendly guy. They already, if you had to do a vote, most people are going to vote that they like Giannis more than LeBron. Just because he don't want to go team up. He don't want to do this. He don't want to do that. So all that bias comes into play when you're talking about that MVP. Why is it so biased and he got so many votes? Because look how many people are looking. Giannis is doing it by himself. LeBron got AD. It's biased.
And not to mention, you don't want to have LeBron with 7 MVPs when so many people don't agree with him being the best player in the world, and that adds to the narrative of him being the best player in the world over Michael Jordan. Because most of these people that vote, and I'm not saying LeBron is better than Jordan. That is not what I'm saying. So let's not even go. And I'm not saying to you, because I'm just saying for anybody that wants to chime in. But what I'm saying is, most of the people doing the voting are in the Jordan era. They were watching him when they were, younger. So they probably agree with Jordan being the GOAT. And those are things that people think about. People want to act like those are not issues. Those are not like thoughts that people have. But people have their biases. But they also like, nah, if we get LeBron the MVP, then that's just more reason for people to say he the GOAT. Like all that matters. All that matters. There needs to
Yes.
be a set criteria for MVP, a set criteria for Defensive Player of the Year. It needs to be a set criteria for all these awards, so people can say, well, how did he win when this what you got to have to be in the conversation? You know what I'm saying?
Right.
It ain't gonna happen, I don't think, but it should be something. Anyways, so we getting low on time, man. Anything else you want to throw out there before we end today's show?
The only thing I want to throw out, and he didn't have a great game. He didn't score well, but Gordon Hayward. I told people first time all year that Marcus Smart, Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, and Kemba Walker all had 20 points was the last game. Guess who was the difference on the court? Gordon Hayward. Don't tell me, and I try to tell people, he opens up the floor, he spaces the floor, he can shoot. He is a good player. Let's not forget he was an all-star. Dude can ball. It makes a difference. He makes it easier for everybody else on the court, and we clearly saw that last night. They basically dominated.
Well, I will give you another piece of credit when we talked about, not on the show, but personally, you said that when Gordon Hayward came back, he'll come off the bench, and I said he'll go back in the starting five. He did come off the bench, so you get that one as far as being right. But I will say this: I will give you that credit if they win Game 4, because the Celtics needed to win this game. I'm a firm believer that they probably would have won this game without Gordon Hayward. Back against the wall, coming out hungry, extra motivated. So Gordon Hayward may have been the difference, but I will for myself say he's the difference if this series turns into a real series. Right now, I still see Miami having the upper hand over them. Over these last 3 games, just the way that they played as a whole. But I need to see it one more time. If I see it one more time, then I'll be like, okay, I'm with you on that. So we'll see tomorrow, because that's when they play again.
Yeah, because if you notice, with him on the court, it didn't slow down Tatum or Jaylen Brown or any of them, as a matter of fact. It slowed down nobody, which is what I felt. I felt like he would only help. That's just one more person you got to pay attention to.
I think, and when you were talking, my argument was, hey, they had him starting all year. If he's able to play, he's able to start. I think him coming off the bench may have been the difference. Because, like I said, one of my argument was their roles are so much more clear to each other.
Mm-hmm.
Like, who does what? It's not as many people need to touch the ball. Like, Marcus Smart have been playing out of his mind offensively, but he don't need that. He's never going to be the one that says, I want the ball in my hands more. Gordon Hayward needs the ball in his hands more. That's perfect for him coming off the bench. Because when he comes in the game, he's replacing one of those guys who has the ball in their hands. So it doesn't take away from the flow of the game. So I think that may be I don't know if they're going to make any changes to that starting rotation, but I think him coming off the bench is better than Marcus Smart coming off the bench.
I agree.
So if they keep that going, they I think that's the right decision. But we will see. Anyways, that's all we got for you today. This is Hold This L. I am Cappel.
I'm
This
Lonnie.
is my co-host. Well, I jumped in. My bad. That's Lonnie.
It's all good. It's all good. Throw it out there.
Yeah,
No, it's all good. Good show, man.
Yeah. And we will be back later this week on Friday. Check us out for another episode where we talk about daily fantasy, throw out our picks for the upcoming Sunday. Again, hit us up if you got questions. Hold This L podcast at yahoo.com. Follow us on Twitter. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram. All right, get at us. That's all we got. Peace.
Later.